more.
It's almost 6 o'clock. I have 6 o'clock, Marcia. Welcome to the Moraga-Orinda Fire District regular board meeting, February 16th, 2022. I will call the meeting to order. Marcia, can we do roll call, please?
Director Bates.
Here.
Director Danziger.
Here.
Director Jex.
Here.
Director Jorgens.
Here.
President Donner.
Here. Consent agenda item 2.1, adopt resolution 22-06, re-ratifying findings and determining a need to continue holding remote meetings by teleconference.
I move we adopt resolution 22-06, re-ratifying the findings.
Seconded.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess we got a public comment. Sorry.
Marcia, do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any attendees and we've not received any written public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment.
Now I'll move that we adopt resolution 2206, item 2.1.
We have a second. I'll second.
Second.
Marcia, can we do a vote, please?
Director Bates.
Aye.
Director Danziger.
Aye.
Director Jex.
Aye.
Director Jorgens.
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. 2.1 passes. Item 3.0, open public comment. Marcia, do we have any hands raised or correspondence on things that are not on the agenda?
We do not have any hands raised or correspondence.
Okay, I will close public comment on agenda item 4.1 through 4.5. And I will close this session and we'll be back at 7 o'clock. Go to our closed session.
Okay.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Hey. Okay.
Marcia, I have 7 o'clock. Are we all here?
Yep, it looks like we're all here.
Okay. Let's go ahead and start. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call the public meeting to order. Marcia, can we do a roll call, please?
Director Bates,
Here.
Director Danziger,
Here.
Director Jex,
Here.
Director Jorgens,
Here.
President Donner.
Here. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag of the United States of America. And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Item 6, a report of the closed session. Items 4.1 through 4.5. We have nothing to report. Item 7, open public comment. Items not on the agenda. Marcia, do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised and we have not received any written public comment.
Okay, I will close the public comment for items not on the agenda. Item 8.1, public hearing on proposed confirmation of reports of cost of abatement 2021 season and adopt resolution 22-04 confirming and adopting report of costs incurred by the Moraga-Orinda Fire District, public nuisances at 231 Ream Boulevard, Moraga, APN 25507-20. I have something, I don't know if that's 03.
Yep.
Pursuant to Health and Safety Code violate section 14912.
Right.
Good evening, directors. In accordance with the California Health and Safety Code, the Board of Directors must hold a public hearing to confirm the costs of abatement incurred by the fire district in abating separate parcels of land. The purpose of the hearing is to review any objections from property owners legally responsible to be assessed. The confirmation of the costs included the passing, approval, and adoption of Resolution 2204, which includes the necessary documents to be submitted to the Contra Costa County Auditor Controller Tax Division for enrollment on the property tax roll. On April 28, 2021, the district mailed to all property owners within the district an exterior hazard control postcard. The postcard provided information in regard to the requirements of Mlfd Ordinance 20-01 and advised that all property owners are required to comply with the requirements in Mlfd Ordinance 20-1 no later than May 31st, 2021. Property owners who were non-compliant then received notices to abate vegetation hazards and were given a minimum of 15 days to remove the vegetation. When such removal was not completed by the request removal date, additional pre-lien notice was sent to the property owner, which advised the property owner that if the vegetation hazards were not abated within an additional 15 days, the property would be subject to a public hearing in which the Mlfd Board of Directors would determine whether the property was to be declared a seasonal and recurrent nuisance and order the fire chief to abate, in which case a contracted company, in accordance with the instructions from Mlfd, would conduct the removal. The abatement was approved by the Mlfd Board of Directors on June 16, 2021, and abatement was conducted by a district-approved contractor. After the work was executed, the property owner was billed for the work and had an opportunity to pay prior to the district processing a lien on the property. After hearing public comment and approving the attached documents, the fire district will be permitted to enroll on the property tax roll the costs incurred for abatement during the 2021 exterior abatement season. And this is regarding parcel 25507-2003, real property located at 231 Ream Boulevard. The mitigation cost was $16,200. Per policy, there is a 50% admin fee of $8,100 attached for a lien amount of $24,300. Our recommendation is to open the public hearing and hear any public comments, confirm the report for costs of abatement incurred by the district in abating public nuisances on 231 Ream Boulevard, close the public hearing and adopt Resolution 22-4, confirming and adopting the reported costs incurred by the Moraga-Orinda Fire District in abating public nuisances and real property at 231 Ream Boulevard within the district pursuant to Health and Safety Code Section 14912.
Marcia, do we have any hands raised or comment on this?
We do not have any hands raised, and we have not received any written public comment.
Okay. So Chief, should we vote on this now then, since we have no
Yes, sir. That's staff's recommendation.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to adopt Resolution 22-04.
Second.
We're closing the public hearing.
I'll close public comment, and then could you, Director Danziger, could you propose that again, please?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 22-04.
Second.
Okay, Marcia, could I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 8.2, public hearing on proposed confirmation of report of cost of abatement 2021 season and adopt Resolution 22-05, confirming and adopting the reported costs incurred by the Moraga-Orinda Fire District in abating public nuisances at 106 Tappan Lane, Rinda, APN number 266-38-0009, pursuant to the Health and Safety Code Section 14912.
Directors, the background is the same as the previous item. The abatement was approved in this case by the Mlfd Board of Directors on June 16th, 2021. An abatement was conducted by a district-approved contractor. After the work was executed, the property owner was billed for the work and had an opportunity to pay prior to the district processing a lien on the property. After hearing public comment and approving the attached documents, the fire district will be permitted to enroll on the property tax roll the costs incurred for abatement during the 2021 exterior hazard abatement season. In this case, that relates to assessor's parcel number 26638-0009, real property located at 106 Tappan Lane in Orinda. Mitigation cost was $23,400. The administrative fee is $11,700 for a total lien amount of $35,100.
Marcia, do we have any hands raised or public comment?
We do not have any hands raised, and we have not received any written public comment.
Okay, I will close the public comment. And do I have a motion?
Before we have a motion, I just have a question.
Go ahead, Director.
And this Director Danziger, this relates to the previous item as well. If anyone knows this answer, I don't know. I was just curious, and this would be, for public information as well. If we place these liens, what if the the property owners don't pay the lien? Does anyone know what occurs?
As these are attached to the tax bill, sir, the county follows the
Right.
process they would for any unpaid property tax bill.
Right, and so they put it on your property tax bill. You don't pay it. What happens? Anyone know?
I would have to defer to the county tax assessor with regard to their follow-up actions.
I would believe that there would be a tax lien placed on the property.
Okay, I'm just curious, but that's all I had. I'll make a motion if you're ready. I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 22-05.
Second.
Second it.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Motion passes. Item 8.3, third public hearing on redistricting process, review district maps, review the criteria for adopting new district boundaries / maps, receive input from the public, receive direction from the board of directors, adopt resolution 22-07, a resolution of the board of directors of the Moraga-Orinda Fire Protection District, adopting adjusted election division map.
Good evening, directors. At the January 19th, 2022 regular board meeting, a first public hearing was held to discuss redistricting. At this meeting, the board requested additional information to include maps showing census blocks with population. At the January 26th, 2022 special board meeting, the board provided additional direction from which modified voting districts were created. The output of this direction is included as attachment A. I defer to Michael Cohn, our redistricting expert, who's here this evening to answer any questions the board may have. Of note, this is the third public hearing, and our recommendation is that if there is not substantive public input or the board does not provide differing direction, that the board were to take public comment, discuss, deliberate, close public hearing, and adopt the draft map, and then adopt resolution 2207, which would adopt the adjusted election division map. So with that, I turn it over to Michael Cohn.
Good evening, directors. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Michael, I have a question. This is Director Danziger. Is there any requirement by the district to note if we take action today and approve this? Is there any action required by the district to notify people who are moving from one district to another? Other than when they get their ballot?
No, there is not.
Okay.
The only publication requirements are in the public hearing requirements, which this board has satisfied.
Okay, thank you.
Any other directors have any questions for Michael?
Thank you for all your good work.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Marcia, do we have any, I'm going to open this up for public comment. Have we received any correspondence, or do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised or written public comment.
Okay, so I will close public comment. And do
I'm sorry, go ahead.
go ahead, Director Danziger.
I have one more question to Michael. Does this take effect immediately after we approve this?
It does not. It takes effect 30 days after approval. The shape files, which is the data that compose the actual maps, have to be transmitted to the Contra Costa County Registrar. The elections divisions will receive those shape files, but for purposes of satisfying the statutory timeline, the date of the adoption of resolution is the date that you have adopted the new map under that timeline.
And when you provide that that information to the Board of Elections, is it do you provide like the specific addresses? Is it like that, like, you know, by address that taken, like moving from one district to the next? Is it?
It'll be slightly more complicated than that. The data
Oh.
that's provided by our analysts to the registrar is going to be much more detailed than the data already on file for the district, which next decade's redistricting much easier. But what it is a very detailed map, including all the data with all the census tracts and all the other relevant information that the county registrar might need to deliver ballots to the correct district.
And does the district get copies of anything that you submit?
Yes, I believe we'll be working with Marcia to send the shape files over to the elections division, and the district will have updated maps with the new data.
Okay, so directors could have access to get that information at any time after it's done.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Directors or anybody, I assume.
Yeah. Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from any directors?
I move we adopt resolution 2207.
Adopt the new district map as well.
Marcia, could I get a vote, please?
Did we get a second?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't hear it. Sorry.
Director Jex, second.
Okay, got it.
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye.
Thank you, Michael.
Yes,
Cone.
thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you, directors.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Item 8.4, public hearing and second reading of ordinance 22-01, an ordinance of the Moraga-Orinda Fire District of Contra Costa County, revising a schedule of fees for district services.
Good evening, directors. The district's fee schedule has been updated and includes a consumer price index increase of 3.8%. Two new fees have been added to the fee schedule to allow the district to recover the costs of providing mandated inspections of public schools. The first public hearing and reading of the proposed fee ordinance was held on January 19, 2022. No changes were directed by the board in the January meeting. Staff recommends the board waive the second reading of ordinance 2201, conduct the second public hearing, accept comments from the public, and adopt ordinance 2201, adopting a revised schedule of fees for district services.
Thank you. I'll open up the public comment. Marcia, have we received any correspondence or have any hands raised?
We do not have any written comments or any hands raised.
Thank you. Then I will close public comment on 8.4. Any more additional comments for any other directors?
Chief, just one quick question. So these are fees for, inspections and fun things. They're not ambulance fees and all that sort of thing. And because we had talked about having a fee for sending emergency, blocking vehicles, whatever we call them, to like Highway 24. This is.
Yes, sir. I owe additional research. This can be amended. But I owe additional research regarding the legal authority for additional fees beyond our first responder fee specific to freeways. There's a little more work to be done there, but this can be amended at a future date if a new fee is established.
Okay.
This is Director Danziger. I have one question. I note on, it's not really numbered the page, but the second page of the fee schedule. There's one item called Group R 3.1 daycare residential, and there's no, it's AP 11.1, and there's no fee there. It's just blank, and I'm just wondering about that.
Sir, I'm going to hand that to the fire marshal.
Okay. It's the only one I think that's blank, and I just wondered about it. Why?
Hey, good evening, directors. State Fire Marshal does not allow us to charge a fee for that because it's in a resident and R3 occupancy. We just do if somebody's going to change their residence from an R3 to R3.1, we just review the plan. It comes in through the state system.
As a courtesy.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you, Jeff.
That answers my question. I think that's the only one that had nothing there. All right. Thank you.
Any more comment from any directors? Do we hear a motion?
So I'll move it. I'll move that we adopt ordinance 22-01. Item 8.
Second that.
Thank you. Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Item 8.5, public hearing and first reading of ordinance 22-02, an ordinance of the Moraga-Orinda Fire District of Contra, Costa County, California, adopting requirements for undeveloped parcels and certain low density, large developed parcels, and findings of fact establishing additional requirements in the state responsibility areas and local responsibility areas.
Good evening, directors. In October 2020, Mlfd Ordinance 20-01, adopting and amending the 2019 California Fire Code was adopted. Among other elements, Ordinance 20-01 included findings of fact documenting the climatic, geologic, and topographical conditions which exist in the fire district and necessitate these amendments. In January 2022, a draft of the 2022 California Fire Code was released, beginning the next fire code cycle. This will include public hearings before the Mlfd Board, Orinda City Council, Moraga Town Council, and Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors. Ordinance 22-02 is intended to establish requirements for undeveloped parcels within the fire district outside of the fire code as part of the triennial update cycle. With regard to authority, Public Resource Code applies to state response areas, and Section 4117 states any county, city, or district may adopt ordinances, rules, or regulations to provide fire prevention restrictions or regulations that are necessary to meet local conditions of weather, vegetation, and other fire hazards. Such ordinances, rules, or regulations may be more restrictive than state statutes in order to meet local fire hazard conditions. The government code similarly applies to local response areas. Section 51175 Charlie states it is not the intent of the legislator in enacting this chapter to limit or restrict the authority of a local agency to impose more restrictive fire and public safety requirements as otherwise authorized by law. The Health and Safety Code 13800, also known as the Fire Protection District Law of 1987, establishes Mlfd's authority to establish and enforce fire and life safety measures. Section 13816 India states we have the authority to establish and enforce rules and regulations for the administration, operation, and maintenance of the services listed in Section 13862. Section 13862 states a fire district shall have the power to provide the following services, and it lists a number of them to include Foxtrot, any other services related to the protection of lives and property. There are findings of fact included in the ordinance which identify the weather, climatic, vegetation, geologic, and topographical conditions which make this ordinance necessary and establish a fire hazard within the fire district, which requires specific measures on undeveloped parcels. Those proposed standards are, in order to reduce the risk of uncontrolled wildfire on undeveloped parcels, the following standards are proposed. 1A, to reduce the risk of uncontrolled wildfire, fuel breaks are required on undeveloped parcels and developed parcels of 10 acres or greater with a density of less than 2 habitable structures for every 10 acres of land. For the purpose of this ordinance, a fuel break requires the removal of modification of fuel maintained on an annual or recurring basis in a manner that will prevent the transmission of fire, specifically The grass and weeds are cut to less than 3 inches no later than June 1st of each year. The removal of hazardous vegetation in the form of surface fuels, removal of non-irrigated brush, the trimming of healthy trees to create no less than a 6-foot vertical clearance between the lower portion of the canopy and the ground or ground fuels, removal of ladder fuels, removal of dead or dying trees, removal of non-vegetative combustible material, specifically rubbish, litter, or material of any kind that is combustible and endangers the public safety as determined by the fire chief or their designee. The fuel break requirements on developed and undeveloped parcels are as follows. Undeveloped parcels, any person who owns, leases, or controls one or more undeveloped parcels within the district shall comply with the following fuel break standards. Parcels of 1 acre or less, the entire parcel shall be maintained in accordance with the requirements of the fuel break. And on this one, I apologize, there is a correction required. We say parcels of at least 1 acre, meaning that in the case of a parcel that is exactly 1 acre, there would be overlap between section 1 and section 2 here. This should read parcels greater than 1 acre, but less than 10 acres. A fuel break of 30 feet shall be created and maintained around the entire perimeter of the parcel. For parcels of 10 acres or greater, a fuel break of 100 feet shall be maintained around the entire perimeter of the parcel. If in case of multiple contiguous parcels owned by the same person, they may be treated as a single parcel with the approval of the chief or their designee if a fuel break of 100 feet is provided. In the case of developed parcels, a person who owns, leases, controls one or more developed parcels within the district shall comply with the following fuel break standard, and that is parcels of 1 acre or greater with a density of less than 2 habitable structures for every 10 acres of land. A fuel break of 100 feet shall be provided around the entire perimeter. These are included as a note because a parcel of that size with so few structures, i.e. less than 2 structures per 10 acres of land, is for practical purpose, the majority of that, the vast majority of that parcel is open space, and we suggest it be treated as an undeveloped parcel for the purpose of this ordinance, and that the creation of fuel breaks shall not result in the taking of endangered, rare, or threatened plant or animal species, significant erosion or sedimentation of surface waters. When these or other conditions make it impractical to create or maintain a required fuel break, the person who owns, leases, or controls the parcel or parcels may request a modification of the fuel break requirement, and failure to comply may result in the issuance of a citation for Ordinance 21-01 or any successor ordinance. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board or the public may have.
Chief, so in a developed parcel, if you have 11 acres and 2 houses on it, what are the requirements?
That would fall under the fire code, sir. That would not be subject to this because there would be a density, the density of less than 2 habitable structures for every 10 acres of land. You would have density greater than that, therefore it would not apply.
Wouldn't apply at all?
No, sir.
So
that would appropriately be considered under the fire code, not under this ordinance. This ordinance is designed to deal with undeveloped parcels or those parcels that have very low density.
Chief, this is Director Donner. Any idea how many parcels we're talking about in the district?
It's a small number, sir. The vast majority of the lands that would be affected by this are the surrounding wilderness lands outside the incorporated city and town, or some of the large publicly owned lands within the city and the town, which are already largely in compliance.
Thank you.
Chief, this is Director Danziger. There's a section about multiple contiguous parcels owned by the same person. I'm concerned about the word may be treated as a single parcel with the approval of the fire chief or designee. So do you have, I mean, I guess I don't want to see an arbitrary decision, and I know you don't do that, but the word may kind of concerns me a little bit. And do you do it on a case-by-case basis? How would you make that determination?
Yes, sir. If the owner of multiple contiguous parcels applied for it and had provided the 100-foot perimeter around the perimeter of those contiguous parcels, we would assess the fuel loading and the potential for destructive wildfire spread to make a determination about whether those interior lines would be required. And typically, when you have multiple parcels, they often align with terrain features where say a mid-slope line between 2 contiguous parcels would have very little value when it came to wildfire spread. On the other hand, 100 feet at the ridge top seemed reasonable in this case. But as I said, it would be based on an assessment of the topography, the fuel, and the alignment of those two factors with weather to make a determination about whether or not the perimeter fuel break would be sufficient.
Okay.
This is Director Jex. Director Donner indicated or a question that how many parcels there would be. What kind of how many of them are homeowners associations or connected to residential property?
Yes, sir. There's a very small number of residential parcels with a single structure of this size within the district. There are some, certainly, and we have been enforcing a similar requirement under the fire code in those cases in the past. The major expansion here is to truly undeveloped parcels. There are a number of HOAs that have undeveloped open space that it is required, usually as part of the subdivision agreement that created that HOA. But as I said, the area where there's the most land to which this applies is the wilderness lands that surround the incorporated portions of the city and the town.
Is there any, because of the 100 feet, which is a significant expansion in terms of the amount of land that's going to need to be cleared and to comply, of a phase in over a period of time?
Yes,
All in
yes,
one
sir.
year?
As a general statement, I believe the record supports when folks are making a good faith effort to comply, and that compliance will be achieved over time. We go out of our way to work with them to help them identify the most efficient pathway there, particularly in the case of HOAs that require an annual meeting to make a change to their budgets. We will certainly take that in consideration and work with those to include helping them align with either fire safe or other grant opportunities that may be available. It is not our intent to levy an unachievable standard, particularly for those who are making progress towards the goal. And that if that goal can be achieved in a voluntary manner with an extended timeline, we certainly take that into consideration.
Yeah, because I think the thing that we would not want to do is end up in a situation where we would be having hearings of having us go in and abate and then adding some huge amounts of money. But, you know,
if I may, sir, it's notable that under this ordinance, we do not have the authority to conduct lien funded work.
Okay.
Our recourse is limited to citations under Ordinance 21-01, sir.
Okay.
It's still $500 a day.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
That's real money. I mean,
Chief, this is Director Danziger. I just wanted to go back to the, I had one more question having to do with multiple contiguous parcels. So the way it reads now, it says owned by the same person, and maybe this is just a semantic matter and maybe doesn't matter at all, but sometimes I look for these things. So what if it's a corporation or an HOA or an entity? Does that fall under person? Or should we really say entity or something along those lines?
Yes, sir. Person for this, we use the Public Resource Code, not 4291J, but 4101, where person is a very expansive definition.
Okay.
Of a person, an agent of the state, a corporation, et cetera. It's a very expansive definition. Sir.
Okay, good enough. All right.
Any more questions from any of the directors?
Nope.
Marcia, I know that we received some correspondence. Do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised. We did receive 3 written public comments in regards to Ordinance 22-02, which was forwarded to the directors from the following: Nick Warrenoff, Melanie Light, and Ken Light in support of 2202.
Thank you. I will close public comment on item 8.5. And since this is the first reading, Chief, are we gonna vote on this now?
No, sir. The recommendation is discuss, deliver, introduce, and waive the first reading
Okay,
Open public hearing, accept comments, close the public hearing, provide direction to staff, and then we will, if the direction is positive, I will reach out to the city manager and the town manager to schedule meetings, an opportunity to answer any questions the city council and the town council may have. We will also engage the residents of unincorporated Bollinger and Canyon to ensure any of their questions are answered, so that we have had a chance to fully explain the intent and answer any question those elected officials may have, in order to inform the board's discussion, deliberation, review, and hopefully adoption at the March meeting when we would hold the second hearing, sir.
thank you, Chief. We'll move on to 8.6.
Good evening, directors. The California Board of Forestry was formed in 1885 as a 3-member board. Over the last century, the Board of Forestry has evolved in response to changes in the state. With the passage of the Forest Practice Act of 1973, the state legislature reorganized the board and expanded its powers and responsibilities. This 1973 statute changed the board's function in relation to forest practice rules and regulations from a ratification role to an adoptive role. The Board of Forestry and Fire Protection is a government-appointed body within the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. It is responsible for developing the state's general forest policies. Together, the board and the department work to carry out the California legislator's mandate to protect and enhance the state's unique forest and wildland resources. The board is charged with protecting all wildland forest resources in California that are not under federal jurisdiction. These resources include major commercial and non-commercial stands of timber, areas reserved for parks and recreation, woodlands, brush range watersheds, and private and state lands that contribute to California's natural resource wealth. The actual powers and responsibility of the board are widespread and diverse. These responsibilities include to classify and adjust boundaries of SRA, to review and approve fire plan prepared by the department, to make regulations necessary to carry out the fire protection function, formulate the standards of what fire conditions constitute a hazard, designate hazardous fire areas under PRC 4251, and provide standards for cooperative agreements for structural fire protection in the non-fire season. The Mlfd Board of Directors has taken a leadership role in fire safety and fire prevention by taking progressive actions and adopting a fire code that exceeds the minimum state standards, passing a utility ordinance, a resolution highlighting the need for insurance companies to follow the public resource and government code for home inspections. The board previously also established a wildland urban interface fire area through Ordinance 20-02 in June 2020 in order to apply more stringent elements of the building code to new construction and major remodels. In 2018, the legislature passed SB 901, expanding the applicability of the regulations promulgated under PRC 4290 to land in the local response area very high fire hazard severity zone. This law was enacted through California regulations, CRC Title 14, 127002, which took effect 1 July 2021. Of note, the expansion of these regulations does not include lands designated within the wildland urban interface fire area, as the Mlfd board has previously done. The California Fire Code, Chapter 49, defines wildland urban interface fire area. However, as the CFC is Title 24, Part 9 of the California Building Standards Codes, its requirements are limited to buildings in the areas immediately adjacent to a structure. With the expansion of the state's fire safety regulations to LRA Very High Fire Hazard Severity Zone, the wildland urban interface fire area designation is no longer adequate to ensure the most progressive laws and regulations to reduce the risk of wildfire loss are in effect within the district. The primary mechanism to expand the very high fire hazard severity zones in LRA is action by the Office of State Fire Marshal's Community Wildfire Preparedness and Mitigation Division. Government Code 51181 states the State Fire Marshal shall periodically review the areas in the state identified as very high fire hazard severity zones pursuant to this chapter, and, as necessary, shall make recommendations relative to the very high fire hazard severity zones. This review shall coincide with the review of state responsibility area lands every 5 years, and when possible, fall within the time frame for each county's general plan update. Any revision of areas included in the very high fire hazard severity zone shall be made in accordance with sections 51178 and 51179. It is notable that the current fire hazard severity zone maps were published in draft form in 2007 and final form in 2009. Work is ongoing to update these maps by state agencies. However, the new maps have not been published. Government Code 51175 Charlie states, it is not the intent of the legislator in enacting this chapter to limit or restrict the authority of a local agency to impose more restrictive fire and public safety requirements as otherwise authorized by law. Government Code 51179 Bravo states, a local agency may at its discretion include areas within the jurisdiction of the local agency not identified as very high fire hazard severity zones by the state fire marshal as very high fire hazard severity zones following a finding of fact supported by substantial evidence in the record that requirements of section 51182 are necessary for effective fire protection in the area. Since 2009, fire severity and loss have increased dramatically, with 15 of the 20 most destructive fires having occurred since the current maps were published. 5 of these fires occurred in 2020 and 2021 alone. Further, 9 of the 20 largest fires burned in 2020 and 2021. As a result, there is a pressing need to update fire hazard severity zones to reflect the current reality. Our recommendations: discuss, deliberate, introduce and waive the first reading, open public hearing, accept comments, close public hearings, provide direction to staff. And I'd be happy to answer any questions the board or the public may have, understanding that there's quite a bit of government code and PRC included in the previous staff report.
Thank you, Chief. Directors, anybody have any comments or questions?
This is Director Danziger. I don't really have any questions. I just want to make a comment, is that I want to acknowledge the outstanding work of staff in preparing this report. The attachments and all the information provided here was very helpful. And I just want to acknowledge the fire district and our staff and the proactive measures that they're taking by the authority that we have to make these changes. And I think it's a really positive step and shows our progressive district here in
Fire prevention
measures that are over and above what the state requires. So that's all I want to say. Thank you.
I would like to second Director Danzinger's comments on great job, staff, in preparing this.
I would third that. I do have a question that goes along with that. I guess so as a generality, we're going to take the WUI zone that we previously defined and turn all of that into a very high fire severity zone.
That's the recommendation, yes, sir.
And what impact will that potentially have on people's insurance?
Yes, sir. That's a very good question. So we spoke with the Board of Forestry, and we confirmed that the CAL FIRE and the Board of Forestry's fire hazard severity zone viewer will not reflect the changes. The maps that are published and available on their webpage in a variety of forms and formats will not change. The only thing that show in the viewer and on those maps are the maps that the State Fire Marshal adopted and recommended and adopted in 2009. So at the state level, our changes will not appear on maps. That is not to say that this is being done as a secret and no one will know. It is certainly possible that a insurer would become aware of that, and that would cause them to change their insurance calculation. That is certainly a possibility. I am speculating, but my sense is that is a lower possibility, because the insurance industry, insurance specific admitted carriers, are using sophisticated fire spread models informed by a variety of inputs. And while this certainly could be one of those inputs, it is my opinion that the likelihood that this would be the primary driver to a carrier's decision to non-renew or to change the rate setting they were applying to a policy is relatively low.
So we think that these models that they use that tell where the burn models are would all count this as a very high fire risk?
It's my personal opinion, sir, that the new maps that are now 8 years past due will show a significant expansion of very high fire hazard severity zones based on not only the improvements in modeling, but quite simply the changes in observed fire behavior we have seen during that period. Fires are behaving differently. Fires are doing things they haven't done before. This year is an example. But the only 2 instances in recorded history of a fire burning over the Sierra Crest, and it happened twice this year. So my guess, which is a guess because we have not seen the maps, but when the new maps are eventually released, we will see significant expansions to the scale that it is very possible that these expansions that we are proposing will be exceeded by the new state maps. Because
I know for sure that when you call an insurance company and they one of the first questions they ask is, are you in a very, let me look at the map. Are you in a very high fire severity zone? And they look at the state map. And if the answer is yes, they hang up. So you just got to be aware of that.
Yes, sir.
Chief, it's a little off topic, but it has to do with what Director Jorgens is speaking about. Has there been any movement in the district able to get all of the Firewise communities and all of the hard work the community and you have done in that aspect out to the insurance world, that they get to see that this is happening in the district?
We've engaged on a number of efforts on that front, sir. The challenge is right now there is no single clearinghouse. Monday, the Department of Insurance released a collaborative effort that, among other things, recognizes, points out at the community level things to be considered as Firewise communities, a shelter-in-place community, which Rancho Santa Fe down south is the only one that exists, or an as yet to be developed / released community standard, wildfire safety standard that the Board of Forestry is currently developing. We have continued to tell the good news of the work we have done. We've continued to advertise in every way, space, and form we can the things we're doing as a community at both the parcel and the landscape level to reduce fire risk. But each insurance company is making black box decisions, and there's not a single clearinghouse by which these sort of things can be submitted. However, we are hopeful that the not yet developed or published Board of Forestry standard for community wildfire preparedness will provide us an avenue for submitting the aggregate of the work that's been done between the fuel breaks, the organization at the community level, the work done with the chipper, and then inspections and all of the work that has been done on a community-wide scale to reduce our exposure to wildfire risk.
And do you have any concern about 8.6 passing and this, the whole district becoming a wildfire hazard zone in an insurance issue?
As I said, sir, I think that is a possibility. But from my perspective, and I will be the first to say my perspective is singularly focused on fire and life safety.
Sure.
From my perspective, the benefits of applying more stringent state standards to expanded areas of the district, that is a benefit that would outweigh, that is a tangible benefit that will outweigh the potential for an insurance company or carrier to weigh this into their considerations for providing either a renewal or rate setting. Sir.
Thank you.
This is Director Jacks. I was looking at those maps, and it looks like we are expanding what was pink, which is very high, significantly to the east. Is it?
Yes, sir. To the east and to the east and south. If you look at the current map, sir, with the red, which is the fire hazard severity zones, as we expand those, it expands the northern side of the Downs on the north side of Ladderwasser, the rest of Orinda north of 24, exclusive of the downtown, and then essentially all of Orinda down to that little pocket leading into Moraga, and then obviously a good section of Moraga is excluded, sir.
One last question. So we currently have a WUI definition of it, and we have a fire code that says in a WUI, here are the rules you have to follow. And the same fire code says, and by the way, there are stronger rules if you're in a very high fire hazard zone. So is the alternative to change the fire code so that it applies the same rules to both?
No, sir. So the only place wildland urban interface fire area is recognized, the thing that we adopt, is in Chapter 49 of the Fire Code, and that's specific to the requirement for ember-resistant construction. So the WUI FA designation expanded the Chapter 7A or the Section 337 ember-resistant requirements for new construction or major remodels to large portions of the community. As you may recall at the time, my belief on that one is we know that these homes are engineered not to burn. Let's stop the bleeding. Let's stop building homes that we know will burn. And iteratively over many, many years, we'll see a collective hardening of the community. Notably, those are things that were taken into consideration in Rancho Santa Fe with a shelter-in-place community designation was issued based on, among other things, the ember resistant nature of all of the construction. As an example, we're pursuing that as an option for Wilder, as a neighborhood that where all of the homes are constructed to that 337 or 7A standard. The important point here is that Chapter 49 of the Building Code is the only place WUI FA is recognized. Chapter 49 of the Building Code only applies to ember resistant construction. The state fire safety laws in Title 14 that we are seeking to apply in this case are explicit that they only apply in LRA in very high fire hazard severity zone, hard stop, nothing else. So the only mechanism available to us to unlock access to those Title 14 more restrictive measures that previously applied in state response areas, but as of July 1st, were expanded to LRA very high. This designation is the only current option. The other option is, of course, to wait until the new state maps come out. But as this board may recall, it's coming on 3 years now that I've been advertising that those maps will be released in the very near future. And we've essentially given up trying to predict that. Presumably those maps will be released at some point, but we believe that the issue is present enough, and having the ability to apply those additional fire safe measures in Title 14, we believe is beneficial.
Any other comments or questions from directors?
Yes, Director Bates, I have to echo Director Jorgen's concerns with the insurance. We've seen it other places in the county where the rating has changed or the designation has changed and people have lost their insurance or their insurance has gone skyrocket. I'm concerned about that.
This is Director Jex. Curious as to whether or not the previous item that we addressed was going to be reviewed with the city of Orinda and city of Moraga. Are they aware of what this proposal is and what it would do?
Not yet, sir. There's a chicken or an egg here. I have I believe I need to have a sense of what my board is considering before I engage with those other bodies. Because the question I think would be, well, does your board support this? So pending the board's direction this evening, if the board's direction is to move forward with this, as with item 8.5, I will contact the city manager and the town manager and make myself available to answer questions the city council and the town council may have.
So is it okay if we say, let's go have the conversations, but we still need to have a conversation about it?
Certainly at the board's pleasure, sir.
Any other comments or questions from directors? Marcia, do we have any? I'd like to open up to public hearing on item 8.6. Do we have any hands raised?
Yes, we do. We do have hands raised. We have also received 13 written public comments in support of Ordinance 2203 from Jan and Mary Lou Bloomer, Tim Meltzer, Marianne McKay, Colleen Brannon, Nick Warrenoff, Ann Wallenbach, Michelle Tour, Rob Elia and Suzanne Jones, Melanie Light, Ken Light, Amelia and Pete Wilson, Susan Anaker, and William Hudson.
Thank you, Marcia.
For the hands raised, Brian Wallenbach.
Hello, Brian.
Hi, actually, it's Ann. I'm using my husband's Zoom. I apologize.
Hi, Ann.
I'm Ann Wallenbach, and I just wanted to verbally encourage the passage of this ordinance 2203. I'm the lead for the Firewise group in Bollinger Canyon, which includes the Bluffs, Deep Bollinger Canyon, and Valley Hill. And I just would like for our adjacent areas to be as fire safe as we are as possible and held to the same high standards. And then in terms of the insurance, I just wanted to make a comment as well that we have USAA, and they did, before we were a Firewise community, noted that they were giving us a discount because there were Firewise groups in our area. Before we were even a Firewise group ourselves, they noted that Moraga had some Firewise groups. So they did say, we are giving you a discount because of Firewise groups in your area. And we have since become a Firewise area, but I just wanted to make you all aware of that.
Well, number one, thank you for being a Firewise community, number one, and thank you for sharing the information. Thank you.
My pleasure. Yeah, thank you.
Any other hands raised, Marcia?
Yes, Suzanne Jones.
Hello, Suzanne.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, my name's Suzanne Jones. I live up in Upper Bollinger Canyon, and I just wanted to partly echo what Ann said, but really encourage the board to go ahead and support this ordinance. I do hear the concerns about insurance, but I am happy to report that despite the risks that we are facing in Upper Bollinger Canyon, our insurer, State Farm, has been completely reasonable and rational. They've acknowledged the work that we've done with the help of you guys to really improve the defensible space around our home and actually all the work that we've done on our road. And so I feel like the insurance companies are watching and listening, first and foremost to what we're doing to reduce our risk, as opposed to dwelling on what the map might say. And so that's really, good news. And so we have not lost our insurance despite everything that has happened. But for me, this ordinance is about safety, and it is just, concerning, especially for a community like ours, to have areas that are not subject to the same strict rules that we are, particularly when we all depend on the same evacuation route. And as we all know, with fire risk, we depend on each other to, mitigating my risk also mitigates my neighbor's risk. So it's important that we have one set of rules for everybody in places like this where this risk is high to begin with. So with that in mind, we really encourage you to move forward with this ordinance. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you for your comments. And once again, thank you for being in the Firewise community and sharing.
Yes, thank you. And it is encouraging to hear that insurance companies are actually using.
They're taking notice.
Yeah, exactly. Very encouraging.
Marcia, any more hands raised?
We do not have any more hands raised.
Okay, I will close public comment on item 8.6. And I think, Chief, that we should discuss this again at the next meeting and see if we can get this to pass.
Yes, sir. Understood.
All right, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda, items 9.1 through 9.7. Anybody have any comments through 9.1 through 9.7? I'll open 9.1 to 9.7 to open to public comment. Marcia, do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised or received written public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close the public comment on item 9.1 through 9.7.
So I move that we approve items 9.1 through 9.7.
Second. Go ahead.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Moving on to regular agenda items. 10.1, asset allocation and approval of investment guideline documents for the pension trust and for other post-employment benefit trust.
Good evening, directors. At the November 2021 and January 2022 board meetings, the board directed changes to the PAR's investment guidelines documents for the Oped Trust and Pension Trust. The changes directed by the board have been incorporated into the two documents before you this evening. The changes include increasing the asset allocation in equities, increasing the risk tolerance, decreasing the percentage held in developed international markets, eliminating high yield bonds, and eliminating investments in emerging markets. The changes are detailed in the staff report and in the red line versions of the documents included as attachments A and B. Staff recommends board approval of the investment guidelines documents for the pension trust and other post-employment benefits trust.
Thank you, Glorianne. Any questions from any of the directors? I will open public comment for item 10.1. Marcia, do we have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised or received written public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment on agenda item 10.1.
Move we approve item 10.1.
Second.
Thank you. Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
I'm sorry, who was the, who seconded the motion?
I believe Director Danziger.
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Item 10.2, mid-year budget review, fiscal year 2022, and approval of general fund revenue budget adjustment increase in the amount of $1,521,287. General fund expenditure budget adjustment increase in the amount of $1,821,542. Capital projects fund revenue budget adjustment increase in the amount of $158,050, and capital project fund expenditure budget adjustment increase in the amount of $8,036.
Good evening, directors. I have a presentation I'm going to switch to right now. The mid-year budget review has been completed. The budget was adopted in June 2021 and projected a general fund surplus of $744,000. When the budget was originally adopted, labor negotiations were in progress. No salary or benefit increases were included in the original budget that was adopted last year. Subsequently, new MOUs were approved, which included salary and benefit increases. The increases have been included in the mid-year expenditure projections. The updated projected surplus is $444,000. Looking at actual amounts through December 31, 2021, revenue is summarized on the left side of this slide. Total revenue is projected to exceed budget $1.5 million. Property tax revenue is projected to meet budget. Ambulance revenue is projected to exceed budget $705,000. Ambulance revenue decreased due to COVID and appears to have rebounded.
Lorian, could you advance the slide, please?
Oh, I did. Let's see. So you can't see it.
I can resume share if you would like. And bring it.
Okay. Do you see the right slide now?
See, Q2 financial update is showing. Slide 3 of 12.
That's it. Okay, so it has revenue on the left. So I was talking about the strike team revenue. So the strike team revenue is projected to exceed budget $800,000. From July through October of last year, we had employees deployed throughout the state at wildfires. This month, we have employees on strike teams assisting with COVID response. The right-hand side of the slide highlights expenditure variances. Salaries and health insurance are projected to exceed budget due to the negotiated salary increases in the new MOUs. Staffing overtime will exceed budget due to the negotiated salary increases, due to 5 vacant firefighter paramedic positions, and due to increased leave usage. Strike team overtime costs, which correlate with revenue on the left side, are projected to exceed budget $370,000 due to increased strike team and single resource deployments. These costs will be reimbursed by the state. Finally, operating expenses are projected to exceed budget $162,000, primarily due to increased property and liability insurance costs. Okay, yes, did the slide, do you see the slide?
It advanced.
Advanced, thank you. Okay, general fund revenue. This graph reflects general fund revenue by month. The orange line shows budgeted revenue. The green line is actual revenue and is trending higher than the budget. The red line illustrates prior year revenue. This slide graphs general fund expenditures by month. The green line illustrates the current year actuals. The orange line is the budget and the red line is the prior year. This graph details ambulance activity. The vertical bars show the number of transports by month for the current fiscal year and the prior fiscal year. You can see on the left side of the graph how the blue columns, which reflect current year transports, are more than the prior year transports, resulting in the increased revenue. The gray line depicts current year revenue, which is trending higher than the blue line and higher than the yellow line, which was last year's revenue. This graph reflects strike team activity for the last 6 years. The blue line shows strike team revenue. The orange line is the strike team overtime expense. The gray columns, which represent the surplus from strike team activity, has gone into the general fund over the last 6 years. As you can see, the surplus has fluctuated significantly each year. 2021 was the highest amount with a surplus of $1.8 million, which went into the general fund. The current year's surplus is projected to be $500,000. This graph details current year cash flow compared to the prior 2 years. The district started the fiscal year with $15.7 million in unrestricted cash and investments. The district received its latest major cash inflow in December. The district did not utilize the teeter plan in this fiscal year. The district started the fiscal year with $12 million in general fund unrestricted fund balance. The projected surplus would increase the unrestricted fund balance to $12.4 million, which would exceed the fund balance policy minimum of 17%, which is the red line, and be less than the policy goal of 50%, which is the green line. Staff recommends 2 mid-year general fund budget adjustments. The first is to increase revenue $1,521,287. And the second is to increase expenditures $1,821,542. If the budget adjustments are approved tonight, the revised general fund budget surplus would be $444,000. The capital projects fund has a projected deficit of $584,000 due to several budgeted capital purchases. The debt service fund has a planned use of reserves of $2.1 million due to the final year of the pension obligation bonds. The pension obligation bonds will be paid in full on July 1, 2022. Staff recommends a capital projects fund revenue budget adjustment increase in the amount of $158,050 and an expenditure budget adjustment increase of $8,036. This is the last slide. Staff has provided 2 financial updates this fiscal year. Financial updates will be presented again after quarters 3 and 4. Staff recommends the board adopt the general fund and capital projects fund budget adjustment increases as detailed in the agenda. This concludes the presentation.
Thank you, Gloria Ann. Any questions from any of the directors?
This is Director Jex. Yes, in the past, we've had in the board report, the analysis of the receivable from the state for strike team activity and so forth. I didn't see that in this.
Yes, sir. Mary has that under the finance report, under fire chief's report at the end, sir.
At the end, that's fine.
Yes, sir.
Further question then.
Chief, I have a question. I'm just curious about the ambulance revenue.
Yes, sir.
Are our numbers getting close to pre-COVID responses?
Yes, sir. We're seeing a significant rebound. Obviously, it's a little lumpy due to things like Omicron. But generally speaking, many things in life are returning to pre-pandemic issues, and ambulance transport and associated revenue is one of those.
Excellent. Thank you. Any other questions from any of the directors? I will open public comment for agenda item 10.2.
We do not have any hands raised and we have not received any written public comment.
All right, I will close public comment on agenda item 10.2.
I move we approve item 10.2.
Second it.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Item 10.3, determine the amount of the Oped trust contribution and the amount of the pension rate stabilization program trust contribution for fiscal year 2022 and authorize the transfer of district funds to complete the trust contributions.
The district participates in the PARS Trust for OPEB contributions and for pension trust contributions. The district makes annual contributions to both accounts. The board has the authority to decide the amount and timing of any contributions. The OPEB actuarial valuation has recently been updated. The current year OPEB trust contribution per the most recent actuarial valuation is $303,906. The budget includes $434,528 for the OPEB contribution. For the pension trust contribution, the budget includes $2,362,470 for this contribution. Staff requests the board determine the amount of the OPEB trust contribution and pension trust contribution and authorize the transfer of district funds to complete the trust contributions.
Thank you, Glorianne. Any questions from directors?
Yes, this is Director Danziger. As far as the OPEB trust contribution goes, historically, Gloria, you've been here long enough to let us know, the actuarial valuation report calculated the contribution considerably lower than what the budget has. How have we handled that in the past? I mean, generally.
If I may, sir, the board has been consistent with making the full actuarially recommended contribution, or ARC. And the budget obviously is an estimate, but in this case, the returns have exceeded the conservative estimates the board uses. Therefore, the ARC is lower than what was budgeted. But previously, since we transitioned to making the full ARC contribution, the board has always made the ARC.
Okay, thank you.
Any other director comments or questions? I will open public comment for agenda item 10.3. Marcia, have we received any comment or have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised and we have not received any written public comment.
All right, I will close public comment on agenda item 10.3.
Well, I would move that we contribute for the OPEB the ARC, which is the 300, I think is the 303,906. And for the pension rate stabilization, the 2,362,470.
I'd second that.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Item 10.4, approval of unrepresented employee handbook authorizing salary and benefits for unrepresented employees effective February 17th, 2022, in order to add Juneteenth National Independence Day federal holiday.
Good evening, directors. At the January 19th, 2022 board meeting, a director directed staff to place on the agenda an item to consider adding Juneteenth as a holiday for unrepresented employees. Juneteenth is celebrated on June 19th and commemorates the arrival of Union troops in Galveston, Texas, following the end of the Civil War, marking the effective end of slavery in the United States more than 2 years after the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. On June 17th, 2021, the House and Senate both passed and President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act, establishing June 19th as a federal holiday. The district has 11 unrepresented non-safety employee positions. Salary and benefit for unrepresented employees are authorized in the Unrepresented Employee Handbook, which is included as attachments A and B. The Unrepresented Employee Handbook has been updated to add Juneteenth as a holiday for unrepresented employees. The change is in red in attachment A for transparency. Represented safety employees receive holiday pay in lieu of holiday time off per the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding between the district and the International Association of Firefighters, Local 1230, and per the terms of the MOU between the district and Moraga-Orinda Fire Chief Officers Association. The MOUs were agreed to in October 2021 and November 2021, effective July 1st, 2021. Neither MOU includes Juneteenth as a holiday. However, the MOUs contain the following language. The district will observe the following holidays, which are then listed, and such other days as the Board of Directors may by resolution designate as holidays. The fiscal impact is calculated as no fiscal impact for unrepresented employees. However, there is the loss of 8 hours of productivity by the granting of a day off. In the case of represented safety employees, it is estimated at $88,000 per year, ongoing with annual increases as outlined in the MOU. The staff recommends the board take public comment, discuss, and provide direction to staff to amend or not amend the Unrepresented Employee Handbook as attached.
Any directors have any questions or comments regarding 10.4?
This is Director Danziger, and I want to thank staff for getting this on the agenda. I'm the one that asked for this to be on. I think I think the fact that the federal government in June authorized this as a federal holiday. I have done some research in the Bay Area. It's picking up speed nationwide, but in the Bay Area, our neighboring San Ramon district has granted this to unrepresented employees, and San Jose has. Oakland's considering it now. So I think this is going to become more prevalent throughout, and I fully support this.
So, Chief Winokur, this is Craig Jorgens. So what, if we grant it to the unrepresented employees, what does that do to the represented employees in the MOUs where we specifically didn't negotiate this?
Yes, sir. And I think that is a question for meet and confer. But given the plain language of the MOU, I think it is reasonable that there will be a meet and confer with regard to whether or not the holidays as the Board of Directors may by resolution, or such other days as the Board of Directors may by resolution designated as holidays, that would be subject to meet and confer with regard to whether or not that applied to represented employees under the language of the MOUs.
But again, not to negotiate that, but so the federal government passed this in June 2021. We specifically didn't agree to it during our 5 months of negotiation with the represented employees. And so it's not included in the list that got negotiated after it was already a federal holiday. I'm not saying I don't support it as a federal holiday or any other holiday, but it appears that if we, the district, defined it as a holiday, it's quite possibly going to cost us $88,000 a year forever, plus inflation. And it seems to me that it should be part of a negotiation in the next MOU rather than taking place now.
Well, I think we're only granting it to unrepresented employees, period, right now.
But it's not obvious that that's what the language, if the district defines something as a holiday, then it's a holiday.
I think, although I'm not comfortable in open session discussing labor issues generally, I would say that you might very well face an argument by the firefighters union that language means that they're entitled to a holiday that's been provided by resolution. So I think that's that is something the board has to consider. I'm not saying they'd be right or they'd be wrong, but I'm saying that it's likely that could be asserted. One other point I just feel I need to make is, again, without saying anything about the holiday itself, that the firefighters would not get, to the extent that the purpose of giving a holiday is to give a holiday in celebration of something, the firefighters wouldn't get any additional time off. They would just get additional, because they don't get the holidays, they get paid cash instead. And so it would result in potentially, if the firefighters were to prevail on that argument, in additional compensation for the firefighters, but it wouldn't result in additional day off to celebrate that day. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, which is kind of the point of getting the day off.
John, I have a question, since this is on our regular agenda item. Is this something that we can discuss further in closed session and then bring back to an agenda item to the
Yes,
public?
it is absolutely a bargainable issue, and therefore it is appropriate to have discussion, if you'd like to, in closed session under the labor, given direction to your labor negotiators.
I think I would be in favor of discussing this as a board. Any other comments from any of the other directors?
I agree.
You mean as a board in a closed session?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, okay, I'm fine, whatever you want to do.
Director Bates, you have any comment?
I'm in support of Director Danziger's motion and representing or honoring this holiday. If the majority wants to do this in closed session, we can do it in closed session also.
Well, we haven't heard anything from, we haven't adopted anything yet. 1230 has not, to my knowledge, 1230 has not asked to open this item up either. So, I don't know what there is to discuss in closed session. I guess, did we discuss giving it to unrepresented or not? We can't, we don't know what.
I guess I'd like to be able to discuss things more openly with our council about what our alternatives are. How's that? In a closed session.
Okay, we have time. It wouldn't take effect until June anyway, so I'm okay with that.
So
Well, before we move on, I'd also like to see if we have any public comment on this issue.
So let me ask you one question. So what I hear you saying is to pull the item off and not make a decision tonight. Is that what
I would refer to council.
I would recommend, because there are labor aspects to this issue.
Mhm.
Again, it's totally up to you, but
Yeah.
I would recommend that you discuss it in a labor closed session.
Okay.
So, John, do we pull 10.4 off, and how do we proceed if we're going to move forward in a closed session?
You just continue the item.
Okay.
Do we do, still?
Can I take public comment?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Marcia, have we received any? I'm going to open up public comment on agenda item 10.4. Marcia, have we received any public comment, or do we have any hands raised?
Yes, we have one hand raised. Vincent Wells.
Okay. Hello, Vince.
Yeah, this is Vince Wells, president, obviously, of Local 1230, representing Mlfd firefighters. To be honest with you, did not expect that we would have to go this entire route over this. The president did acknowledge that Juneteenth was a recognized holiday, but we do understand that our MOU has a list of what holidays are recognized. And so we would just hope to be able to just have some conversation to adding this one to that list. So that's where our stance is on this, is just, yes, we would like to add this to the list of recognized holidays. And but I do understand contractually what holidays are listed in our MOU, so we can take this offline and have some more discussion in another format. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince.
Yes, that gives us an answer how they're going to feel.
All right, so we're going to pull agenda item 10.4 off the agenda tonight, and we will discuss that further in closed session and then bring it back to open session. Is that correct, John?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 10.5, approve a capital projects expenditure budget adjustment. Increase the amount of $6,897 and authorized purchase of a chipper truck in the amount of $100,326.
Good evening, directors. In 2020, Mlfd began offering community chipping with a rented chipper and truck and 3 staff members in the newly created position of fuel mitigation specialist. This program has continued with widespread community participation in the spring and fall. In order to increase efficiencies, the board approved the purchase of a truck and chipper for up to $180,000 in the 2021-2022 budget. A chipper has been ordered and is currently being upfitted by the dealer. This item was purchased for $83,571. Due to supply chain disruptions, specifically the availability of automatic semiconductor chips, finding an available tow vehicle through district-approved purchasing options has proven difficult. Staff has identified an available unit via Sourcewell, an approved GSA equivalent for $103,325.77. To proceed with this option, a budget adjustment in the amount of $6,897 and board approval to purchase is required. Per the district's purchasing policy, purchases greater than $100,000 require board approval. Staff recommends approval of a capital projects fund expenditure budget adjustment, increasing the amount of $6,897 and authorize the purchase of a chipper truck in the amount of $103,326.
Any questions from any of the directors? I will open public comment on agenda item 10.5. Marcia, have you received any correspondence or have any hands raised?
We do not have any hands raised, and we've not received any written public comment.
All right, I will close public comment on agenda item 10.5.
I move we approve item 10.5.
Second.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Agenda item 10.6, establish an ad hoc committee to attend the East Bay Hills Wildfire Prevention and Vegetation Management Joint Powers Agency meetings and appoint 2 directors to the ad hoc committee to attend the meetings.
Good evening, directors. At the January 19th, 2022 board meeting, 2 directors expressed interest in attending meetings regarding the potential formation of an East Bay Wildfire Joint Powers Authority. A group of organizations is exploring the formation of the JPA. The JPA formation discussions began in December 2021 and will continue into 2022. A series of meetings will occur roughly once per month. Of note, unrelated item, today in my role as the Contra Costa County Fire Chiefs Association President, I attended a presentation by the JPA given to the Alameda County Fire Chiefs Association, and then we continue to engage at the fire service level with the folks that have been retained to pursue or explore the possibilities of a JPA formation and what it might do. The recommendation is to discuss, deliberate, establish an ad hoc committee to attend the East Bay Hills Wildfire Prevention and Vegetation Management Joint Powers Agency meetings, and to appoint 2 directors to the ad hoc committee to attend these meetings.
Any directors want to volunteer?
So I attended the last one where they had a presentation from the JPA from Marin, and it was, you know, a very interesting presentation. So I'll volunteer.
I would also.
Well,
I attended. I actually was not available last meeting, but I did attend the other ones, and
I attended the one as well.
yeah. Well, as president, you want to attend, Mike?
Well, I think you and Director Jorgens can take it.
Okay, I would do it.
Are there other people beating down the door?
All right, then I think we have our ad hoc committee. I will open up public comment on agenda item 10.6. Marcia, do we have any hands raised or received any correspondence?
We do not have any hands raised or received written public comment.
All right, I will close public comment on agenda item 10.6. And I think we have our ad hoc committee, Director
right.
Jorgens and Director Danziger. Agenda item 10.7, Mlfd 25th Anniversary Celebration Ad Hoc Committee.
Good evening, directors. At the November 17, 2021 board meeting, a director requests the discussion of celebrating Mlfd's 25th anniversary be placed in the January agenda. The January 19, 2022 board meeting, the board of directors formed an ad hoc committee and appointed Director Danziger and Director Jex. Following the January 19, 2022 board meeting, the ad hoc committee met and developed the attached Mlfd 25th anniversary ideas for discussion and deliberation, included as attachment A. A history of previous anniversary celebrations was provided by former Mlfd Director Dick Olson, which is included as attachment B. The FY 2022 annual operating budget includes no appropriations for the 25th anniversary expenditures. A budget adjustment will be necessary to the degree that any of these discussion items or action items result in a cost to the district. Recommendations: discuss, deliberate, consider, and approve ideas submitted by the 25th anniversary ad hoc committee. Approve a general fund expenditure budget adjustment, increase if necessary.
It looked like good ideas to me.
President Donner, this is Director Danziger.
Go ahead.
Director Jex and myself, we did meet as the ad hoc committee. We went through just is kind of some brainstorming on some ideas. You all received that. It's part of the agenda. I think there are about 10 items on there. And, you know, I think this is a great way to honor the hardworking and dedicated men and women of Mlfd. And as Dick Olson, I did get a chance to chat with him about it, and I did provide on the agenda some information he gave us. The last kind of celebration was for the 10-year. Seems like our society has this thing about celebrating, certain years, 10-year, 25-year, maybe we don't do it again till 50 years, who knows? But I think this is a great opportunity to acknowledge, the service that we provide to the community. I know at least I wasn't sure, Director Jex, if you had anything to add about one of the items on here. It had to do with banners.
Yeah, I did do some checking, and I looked at possibly doing the posters that we talked about rather than banners. And about a 24-inch by 36-inch for 5 would be around $200. Some kind of framing or whatever would probably think, but anything it certainly would not exceed probably, $400, $500.
For all of them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, this is Director Donor. One thing I didn't see on your list, and it's a great list.
Well, yeah, it wasn't conclusive. We just came up. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rescue One would be great to be acknowledged as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Just with their, they've really been supportive and that's all.
Yeah. Just kind of looking at the items on there, I know the chief, would like this not to cost any money. I think it is going to cost some money, but not a lot of money. And I think our budget can handle it. And so, I don't know if I'm going to need to do it right now, but I would propose that we do have some kind of budget for some of the items. I'd like to get the chief to at least weigh in on a couple of questions I had. One of the questions, Chief, had to do with a banner. So we talked about either putting it on the firehouse itself, from a flagpole, or perhaps on some kind of, stakes on, like a grassy area in front of the firehouse. And I just wanted to get, any take on that. I guess the issue of putting it right on a firehouse or on the flagpole. I don't know about that. I'll just run through some of my questions for you that had to do with that. Also, the logo one, which I don't think would be any cost, but I would like to see that on everything that we have our logo, including the agendas, that for just this year, that we use a 25th anniversary logo. So it would be just a revision of our present logo. And I know somebody from Captain Areola is going to speak on local 1230s, some actions they're going to take. We don't have the logo yet, but I don't think it would take a major revision to just, add 25th anniversary maybe on the top of the logo and the years on the bottom, or the year we were in, that we became the exact date, which would be July 1st of 1997. And then I think the other ones, press releases, resolution, birthday cake, that would be fine. Announcing, making it a public information about our anniversary. And then the, a couple of things I added, and this kind of came later, was, just to acknowledge us as a district that provides service. I was in another large department, and I visited other departments over the time, and usually I've seen either cases, trophy cases, or some area where some of the history of the district or the department is shown. And so I was proposing that, and this would cost a little bit of money, not much, that we acknowledge all the former chiefs of our department. Top of my head, I don't know how many that is. 5 or 6 probably, with a photo and the dates they served. And also perhaps a plaque that would stay in admin with acknowledging all the volunteer directives that have served our district and with the years of their service. So.
Yes, sir. With regard to banner, those typically are displayed over the apparatus bay doors as the most prominent location that is suitable for a banner type, sort of a longer rectangle. We can certainly explore that. Obviously, there's costs associated with procuring the banner.
Yes.
With regard to the logo, that does actually, I'm sure it's a minor cost, but that does actually require a designer to alter the vector file that's used for those things. And then for the history of the department, I have no idea. I assume there are pictures. We certainly know the director's names. So the plaque with the names of the directors is just a matter of the cost from a place that makes such things.
Yeah.
And then we'll take a look to see what we have with regard to the photos of the fire chiefs dating back to 1997.
Okay, thank you. And you know, I'm sure Director Jex and myself as the ad hoc committee can meet with you further and perhaps as far as a budget amount, I am going to propose. I'm not going to do it right now, but I am going to propose some kind of budget adjustment I'd like to see this on the next agenda as well, and by then I think we'll have some more kind of narrow down some of the costs, and I can talk to you and talk to Director Jex about and come up with a dollar amount. We're not talking significant money here. So,
Well, thank you for the effort that you two have put into it thus far.
okay.
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Marcia, I will open up public comment for agenda item 10.7.
We do not have any hands raised. We've not received any written public comment.
Okay, I will close public comment on item 10.7.
Okay, but before we go, I thought we were gonna, I thought there was gonna be somebody, maybe he's working, the person who was gonna talk, so perhaps he's not available.
So his hand just raised.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Okay.
It just went down. Okay, wait.
He's trying.
Yes.
Yes.
Jacob, a roll.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Right.
So I've been kind of working with the committee a little bit, and the graphic has been designed and is currently being converted into a vector image, as the chief was alluding to. Pending the fire chief's final approval, we can have 50 shirts designed and printed and ready to go by April 1st is kind of what we're working on. And we can use that same image if you'd like on banners and posters. So that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob, for your effort. Appreciate it.
And so, Chief, just so I know, I don't know if you've seen anything yet. I haven't. Jacob said he would. Okay.
I have not.
Okay, so that anything that they come up with is pending the approval of the chief, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So Jacob did tell me offline that as soon as he can get the image, he'll supply it to all of us to take a look at. And they're just thinking like the regular station shirt's probably a logo and some kind of shirt that members would buy and would be open, be available for directors as well, or any staff members to purchase. Okay. I think that's all I have right now on that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Marshall, we'll move to item 10.8. Traffic calming devices on fire apparatus access roads.
Good evening, directors. It's worth noting at the outset that this is an information only item. I spoke before the Rinda City Council on our item H1 last week, and we'll continue to work with Rinda City staff. I have an update that came in after the publication of the pack that I'll provide at the end. Over the last 3 years, neighbors in the Dalewood Drive area of Orinda have organized to support the installation of traffic calming measures in their neighborhood to reduce speeding. Their efforts have included numerous neighborhoods meetings, appearances before the Orinda Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and meetings with city staff. In September 2021, Orinda city staff indicated to Mlfd Fire Prevention the city council would consider approving the installation of speed cushions on Dalewood Drive. Staff responded that speed cushions require permits and they would be reviewed upon receipt. Later that month, plans were received and staff indicated an offset would be required to limit the impact on emergency response vehicles to this outlying area. Following this plan review, additional staff-to-staff engagement occurred, and Mlfd requested a copy of the traffic study required by the Orinda Neighborhood Traffic Management Plan. For level 3 traffic calming devices, that plan is included as attachment A. To better understand the speeding issue the project was intended to solve and review the site selection criteria. per the neighborhood traffic management plan, the following are required. The speed cushions will not be considered on arterial streets, not suitable for collector streets, but may be considered for collector streets if all the following criteria are satisfied. Speed cushions will be considered on residential streets, which this installation is, where all of the following conditions are met. Traffic volume is less than 3,000 vehicles per day. Grade is at less than 8%. Posted or prima facie speed limit is 25 miles an hour or less. Street curvature is not less than 250 radius. Any drainage impact can be adequately addressed. And Mlfd and Rinda PD have had a chance to advise the project and provide the opportunity to provide comment. Prior to consideration of the request or proposal for speed cushions by the TSAC, city staff shall conduct a traffic study to ascertain the nature of the problem. Part of this study will include the assessment of potential traffic diversion from the street in question to another street. And then speed cushions are generally not appropriate unless a speed problem is documented by one or more of the following means, or there is a high presence of pedestrians or children. Thing one is traffic speeds at 85th percentile exceeding the posted speed limit by more than 7 miles per hour, and 2 or more accidents in 3 years attributed to excess speed. As of the date of this publication, this packet publication, that information had not been provided. On Friday, after this was released, we received a preliminary report from city staff that did not answer all of the criteria that are listed, with the exception of the there is a high presence of pedestrians or children, and that was via anecdotal reporting. At the February 1st, 2022, Orinda City Council meeting, item H1, considered the appeal of Mlfd's staff rejection of Dalewood Drive speed cushions without a 20-foot offset was considered. Mlfd submitted a letter included as attachment C, highlighting our request for information, stating our position that an appeal was premature. The Orinda City Council declined to appeal the issue at this time and directed Orinda City staff to provide additional information. And the reason we are concerned about an obstruction of a fire apparatus access road, which this is that while speed cushions and other engineered solutions reduce the impact to emergency response times, any modification to a roadway which will slow speeding cars will necessarily slow fire engines and ambulances. Whether the time added to a response is enough to be critical is highly subjective and dependent on the nature of the incident. Given the outlying nature of the area in question and the existing challenges providing timely emergency responses for fire and EMS incidents, staff believes it is critical to balance the need for timely access and egress during an emergency with day-to-day traffic safety. A necessary precondition of this balance is an accurate understanding of the traffic safety issue the traffic calming measures are intended to address, as well as an understanding of the education enforcement efforts which have previously been instituted. Staff believes the information required by Orinda's NTMP process is an excellent starting point to this analysis. Upon receipt of the requested information, staff will conduct an analysis seeking to balance these competing demands. In the absence of that information, it is premature to take a position on the proposed traffic calming measures. We have run speed trials from Station 45 at 1400 earlier this week on Monday during light traffic. Our response time to the outlying areas for an engine, this is excluding turnout time and call processing time, is 7 minutes, 25 seconds. And for the medical unit, it's 6 minutes, 42 seconds. We're in the process of compiling actual response data, which is inclusive of reflex time at the call processing, as well as turnout time. I don't know the answer because I haven't seen the results of that yet, but it is very likely that there are areas that are upstream of these speed cushions where we do not meet our EMS response standards. Those are things that we will consider. And as I mentioned in the staff report, it's critical that we have an accurate understanding of the traffic problem that is being resolved and an understanding of what education enforcement measures have been tried prior to resorting to permanent engineering in accordance with the process outlined in the NTMP. As I mentioned, this is information only. We'll continue to engage with city staff, but I felt it prudent to provide the board background as well as the correspondence received, which is included as attachment D on the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions the board and the public may have.
Thank you, Chief. I have one comment, as I'm sure Director Bates might. Having been an apparatus driver for 25 years, I can just say that speed cushions certainly slow down response times. And furthermore, if you have a critical ill patient and you are trying to intubate them or start an IV line, once the patient is loaded back into the ambulance and now you are in a hurry to get to the closest nearest medical facility, they're a hindrance there as well. So that's my feelings on speed cushions. Anybody else have any comments?
Completely agree.
So
Go ahead,
this is,
Steve.
this is Director Danziger. So at this point, Chief, it sounds like you're just waiting for the city of Rinda to follow the correct procedures. Is that pretty much it?
Well, I should be careful to say it is
Okay.
the procedures outlined in the NTMP. The
Okay.
city manager did correctly point out that there is not a legal requirement for
Okay.
these steps. However, the NTMP, which is the process that's listed on the TSAC site, we have requested the information. We've received elements of that information dating from 2011 and 2014. We continue to work with city staff to better understand. As I referenced, the threshold that has been met so far is an anecdotal report that there are pedestrians in the area. We would like to see some amplifying information so that we can make an informed decision with regard to the necessary trade-off between emergency vehicle access and day-to-day traffic safety. We don't in any way intend to diminish that there may very well be a speeding problem, and it may very well be in the end, and when we understand the full situation and we have the associated data to show that the day-to-day traffic safety preempts or is more important than our response times. However, I do think it's important to recognize that there will be a trade-off were those measures to be approved, and that trade-off must be justified, because inevitably there will be a call in that area and the response will be delayed by these devices. And when that occurs, we must be able to answer the question that the trade-off of the extended response time was worth it for the additional public safety that was achieved on a day-to-day basis from speeding. And we believe the elements that are included in the NTMP are an excellent starting point. As I said, we received additional information on Friday. We sent follow-on questions, and we're in the process as those are being processed by the City of Rinda staff, and we look forward to seeing the results. We continue to run the internal analysis with regard to our response times to that specific area, with concerns because it is in such an outlying area, and it is distant from both 43 and 45 that will have to pass through that area. It's also worthy of note that the Dalewood to Sundown Terrace connection is not a public road and is not dedicated to the county for public use, with the exception of school buses, emergency vehicles, and utility easements. So from a technical standpoint, it's the end of a dead end road, which does require additional scrutiny.
Okay. Yeah, and I recall, I mean, this is not just a comment, is I recall last year, the city of Orinda in my district here, right at Lost Valley, that there was quite a debate about what to do right there because of speeding. There was a lot of options, and they opted for a stop sign there, as opposed to speed humps or cushions. So just a comment, that's all.
Yeah, as I understand it, on Dalewood, it does not meet the criteria for a stop sign.
Okay.
Which I think a lot of the neighbors would love, by the way. But
Okay.
So for President Donner and Director Bates, because having actually done it is very important. Someplace earlier on in the presentation, it said that if you space them 20 feet apart, that would have been acceptable. Have you found that was, did that work, or is that just a silly idea?
I'm not quite sure I'm following you. So
you put one speed hump on one side of the road and the other one 20 feet further down the road on the other side, and then you got to do a little slalom.
Well, but if it depends on oncoming traffic, cars being parked. I mean, there's lots of variables there. I'm just, having been an apparatus driver for 25 years, I'm just not in favor of them, because I just know that they slow the response time down. And then once you have a patient in the back of the ambulance, it certainly hinders the work that's going on in the back of the bus.
Yeah, I just wondered if you had any experience with these, because it sounded like the fire district was willing to accept them if they were just spaced apart. I just wondered if you had any experience with that kind of speed bump to see if they were any better than the regular ones.
I do not. I don't know about Director Bates.
Chief, the bumps that are spaced apart, are those the, for lack of better terms, like the triple bump you would see with the grooves in the middle?
No, sir, a derivative of that. So it's a narrow speed cushion, 6 inches high. It designed that the front wheel will clear it, the rear duals catch it on both the ambulance and the engine. But since the speed cushions are in both lanes, it offsets them by enough distance that you can, the apparatus can, assuming there's no oncoming traffic and there aren't vehicles parked, you can slalom to avoid going over them. I should note for the director's awareness on this information only item, that the plan review response of the offset was, from my perspective, was premature. We have not seen an application for such a thing in recently, and it does require more study before we would approve anything. So from my perspective, the initial plan review is somewhat overcome by events as we've gotten deeper into this issue, and we seek to better understand it through reviewing the NTMP outputs.
Okay. But then, so yeah, the offset I've not seen. The grooves for the, the triple bump or whatever you want to call it, I have actually gone across those. You are still coming to an almost a dead stop in an engine. I've never driven the ambulance, but I would assume you're, again, with a patient in the back, you're going to be almost coming to a dead stop, even with those emergency apparatus grooves. They really slow the vehicles down. That's just a fact.
Yes, sir. My experience supports that as well. If you're slightly off, it's a violent event when the rear duals contact one side.
Any other comments from directors? I will open up public comment for item 10.8.
We do not have any hands raised, and we have not received any written public comment.
Thank you, Mark.
President Don, one more, if I may.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Chief, weren't there speed bumps, cushions, whatever we want to call them, up in Sanders Ranch that they actually removed because it extended response times?
Yes, sir. In 2007, the town of Moraga installed speed cushions in vicinity of JM. The fire district ran speed trials, confirmed that they did have a negative impact on response times. And then the then fire chief sent a letter to the town of Moraga requesting that they be removed and admonishing them that obstruction of fire apparatus access road requires a fire department permit per the fire code.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Committee reports, 11.1 Audit Committee.
Nothing to report.
Nothing to report? Thank
Nope.
you. 11.2 Facility Station 41 Ad Hoc Committee. That is myself and Director Bates. We have nothing to report at this time.
Nothing.
11.3 Mlfd 25th anniversary celebration. I think we discussed earlier in the meeting. We'll open up public comments on agenda items 11.1 through 11.3.
We have no public comment.
Thank you, Marcia. I will close public comment on 11.1, 11.3. And we will go to announcements. Brief information only related to meetings attended by directors at the district expense.
Well, I zoomed into the meeting for the JPA, but it was a, and we've got copies of the minutes if anybody wants to read through them. The folks in Marin are doing some great stuff with their JP. They have plans to do great stuff with their JPA.
All right, thank you, Director Jorgens. Anybody else? 12.2 questions and information comments from board members and staff. All right, we'll go to 12.3 fire chief updates.
Good evening, sir. COVID-19, as discussed previously, we had a significant impact with Omicron-related impacts to the force in December and January, as with the rest of the community transmission. That is tapering off. And then today, in accordance with the updated COVID masking requirement, we adopted the new mandate, which lifted indoor masking for those who are fully vaccinated while retaining it for those who are not. It continues to be recommended that all folks consider masking inside, but is no longer a requirement per the health update. We'll go to Christine with a human resources update.
Yes, thank you. Good night, good evening, directors, not good night. Tonight, I have a brief HR update. So suppression staff annual physicals are currently underway and projected to be completed by the end of April 2022. And then HR staff has been working with our applicant tracking system provider, NeoGov, to implement an onboarding module that will allow HR to manage the onboarding process more efficiently, to allow for new hires to complete their required paperwork using an online platform versus hard copy forms to get us back into the 21st century. So the final setup and training has been completed, and we are prepared to use the system for all future new employees. And that concludes my update tonight.
Thank you for the update.
Can I ask one question?
Yes.
Do we have some folks in academy right now?
We do. We have two.
Two, and how far along is that?
So they started on February 7th, and they are, and then the projected graduation date will be in July.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
I believe they're in Berkeley, and it's a 20-week academy.
Wow.
Correct. It's City of Berkeley. Mhm.
The two that had to leave earlier because of injuries, I think, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct. Mhm.
Thank you for the update.
Mhm.
Fire Marshal, you're up.
Good evening, directors. This evening I have the fire marshal report for January. So for the month of January, we received 21 dead tree complaints, 9 exterior hazard abatement complaints. Property transfers, we had a total of 52, 30 passed on the initial assessment, 22 failed that. Staff's working with the property owners to get them into compliance. We've done 47 inspections, hazard abatement inspections. We have 121 cases that we brought over from last year that we're still working on and that are in various phases of the process. No properties so far for 2022 to move to hearings. We have 3 properties that we did for 21. 2 of those properties were heard this evening by the board for a lien hearing. Chipping, we haven't done any chipping yet this year. So far we have 42 plans submitted. Our total for 21 was 359 plans reviewed. As you see the state mandated inspections, I changed the format a little bit to better answer questions that the directors have had the past couple months. You'll see for the E occupancies and the R2s, we'll show first inspection pass fail, a second inspection pass fail. Then the third column will be, they're still in the fail category. We will move towards the citation route. Current projects, we're working, continuing those cases from 21, property transfer inspections and follow up. A lot of dead tree notices. We had staff out last week with East Bay Mud and Contra Costa County fire prevention folks working together above Camp Lindo, looking at jurisdictions come together. And staff noticed a large number of dead trees. They've been in there working to identify which property they're on. We're up to approximately 35 dead trees have been identified with at least another 20 to 30 still pending. So those notices will go out next week. We want to send them all out at the same time.
Excuse me, Fire Marshal, could you say where that is again?
Yes, sir. It's up behind Camp Lindo.
Camp Olinda, okay.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I don't have the street off the top of my head.
Okay, but in the Camp Lindo neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Again, supporting the pile burning and then working on the fire risk reduction community application. There was legislation passed in 2019, Assembly Bill 1823 required the California Board of Forestry to put together criteria for fire risk reduction community list. I did a webinar on that. The application period closes April 1st and won't open for an additional 2 years. If we are selected for that, we would get additional points when we apply for CAL FIRE fire prevention grants. I'm working through the application process right now. I got to sit down with Chief Winiker and go over some stuff. There's 2 categories for the communities. The Group A, if you will, is cities and counties, and Group B is fire protection district or other government entities that we could qualify under. So we're putting that packet together now, and hopefully we'll have that submitted here in the next week or 2. And then plans for this quarter, the chipper, our new chipper that we ordered should be here at the beginning of March. So we'll focus on training the fuels mitigation staff for that. Continued other fuels mitigation staff training in addition to the chipper. And also we have the fire code updates this year. So I am working with Chief and creating our wish list, if you will, or things that we think we need to put together for local amendments to the fire code. End of my report. Happy to answer any questions the directors may have.
I should add before Jeff finishes, in addition to the compilation of progressive measures we believe are worthy of consideration by the city council, the town council, the Mlfd board, and the board of soups. In my role as the county chief's president, we've volunteered Jeff to aggregate and convene the fire marshals from Alameda and Contra Costa counties to identify areas of alignment between our local amendments and work towards a regional model code, which then would increase standardization across municipal boundaries. Obviously, fire doesn't check the property line. And if we're able to identify those things that are common to all, and we're able to use his expertise and significant energy he's devoted to this to help share these best practices with other agencies, we believe that's mutually beneficial throughout the region. So we look forward to reporting on the outputs of that effort in the near future.
I just like to say thank you to Jeff for just his dedication and his hard work throughout the district. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely agree. You've been a huge asset, in all these applications and knowing where the money is and being able to skillfully, craft our applications and then appropriately, spend the money and do all the fire prevention work. It's been great.
And tactfully deal with all of these inspections in the public.
I wanted to say too that, there was a good newspaper article somewhere about Confire and the grant application that they put in for their fuel break that will continue our work that we're doing, and Fire Marshal Isaacs had a nod in there for his assistance in helping Confire with this too. So that's great also.
Job well done.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, Mary Smith will be up with the finance report.
Good evening, directors. So I am going to present a brief finance report, and we'll start with the strike team reimbursement update. Marcia, could you bring up the slides? Next slide, please. So to date for 2020 and 2021, we still have an outstanding receivable of about $925,000. For this fiscal year, 2021 to 2022, we have received more payments. So our net receivable outstanding to date is $217,000 for a total of $1.1 million outstanding. In regards to the 2020-2021 invoices that are pending reimbursement from FEMA, Battalion Chief Lambert was up at in Sacramento last week, and he did speak with them about reimbursement for these specific COVID-related expenses. And usually incidents aren't sent for processing until the incident is closed. But as COVID is ongoing, they understand our predicament with having this receivable outstanding. So they did send the invoices for processing, and it's anticipated that we may receive payment by the end of February for these outstanding invoices. In regards to the 2021-2022 invoices, again, we still have 217,000 outstanding, but payment continues to come in for those. I actually received a payment today in the amount of $10,000. Next slide, please, Marcia. In regards to other items, primarily what we're working on is the transition from our Citibank accounts to our new Chase Bank accounts. This involves working with our payroll processor, ADP, to update the bank account information, also change our vendor ACH information and set that up with the new account, and debit filters. We have ordered checks, which are on the way from Chase, and received a scanner for check deposits. So that transition is taking place. We did receive a letter from Citibank stating that our accounts would be closed with them effective April 4th. So we have time to get these accounts set up with Chase and get everything moving through there in the next month. And that concludes my report.
Mary, this Director Danziger, does that include, I remember from last month, there was discussion of the Dropbox, was it?
Yes, so we will be using, we'll be using a Dropbox for checks, and that's being set up also. So that's all in process.
Gotcha. All right.
Thank you for the report.
All right, directors, if you'll bear with me, I'm going to try to solve this new system we figured out that will allow me to share simultaneously. All right, the miracles of technology. Good evening, directors. For this evening's board update for the operations with the theme, I don't think I'm advancing. Am I advancing on the screen you can see?
No.
Why?
Negative.
So again, let's see if we can close. All right, we'll try this again. Good evening, directors. This evening's theme is situational awareness, where we are in a space and time where the what we normally would see this time of year, we are not, because there is the lack of precipitation. We are seeing weather and conditions that we wouldn't expect this time of year. Events pushing to 60 miles an hour in particularly dry fuels that just
Chief, I think we're losing you. You're kind of intermittent. Were other people having difficulties hearing him?
Yeah, it was Zoom crashed twice. Give me 1 second, sir.
Oh, there you go.
All right, well, we'll save the slides. I'll say that we got heavy rain in December that I'm sure everyone has at least vague memories of. We've not seen measurable rainfall in January and February. Obviously, this is the time of year when we would be expecting to see the most rain. We've gotten 50 to 60 mile an hour wind events in Southern California, where fuels are approaching summertime dryness, specifically the Colorado fire that burned right down to Highway 1 and jumped it in a couple of places. Down in the Big Sur area, we see the Vegetation fire down in the Irvine area, burning right down into Laguna Beach. And then as of 1300 this afternoon, the airport fire at 1,000 acres outside of Bishop with evacuation orders in place with snow on the ground. These are just things that we wouldn't expect to see this time of year. And it is a good opportunity to remind all, both firefighters and residents, that fire season is coming, and Mother Nature reserves the right that it's theoretically possible that we could be done with rain. Internally, what that means is we are preparing for the season through exercises with our surrounding agencies, specifically in East Bay incident management team exercise incorporating CAL FIRE and a joint response from San Ramon, Contra, and Mlfd in the area where we intersect in and around Bollinger. Very challenging space due to access and so forth, working out the communication system, working the incident management structure, getting the FMAG in place, which is how we would receive reimbursement, and ensuring that we're all operating off a single and standardized communications architecture so that we can seamlessly expand should the incident go exceed the capacity of the local agencies that are on the initial response. We're continuing to refine those efforts, both internally and externally, as well as some housekeeping in areas on things such as freeway response, where we regularly run into each other's jurisdictions. That work will continue through the spring with the intent of ensuring that the district's firefighters, the apparatus and the equipment we use, and our relationships with the surrounding agencies are all fully prepared for what could be a significant and lengthy fire season. It also calls to fore the need for fuel mitigation and prevention, both in the form of the fuel break that we're working on, the Tunnel East Bay Hills fuel break, which is alluded to in the previous item. We'll tie in with a proposed project that Confire, with Jeff's support and Jeff's sharing of our lessons learned, is proposing that will work from extending from where our line lets off around St. Mary's and extends it out through Rossmore. There's that work in the external fuel reduction. It's also critically important that residents have created defensible space, have hardened their homes, and have reduced the prevalence of combustive fuel beds throughout the district, because no matter what size fuel break we construct, carried embers will travel far beyond them. And when they land in that receptive fuel bed, they will start fires in their own right. And it's critical that we both harden the homes that are our default shelter in place location, but we also improve the community's resilience so that those embers are less likely to start fires. And when they do, those fires are less likely to spread because we have disrupted the continuity of the fuel bed. That has been our focus in addition to our day-to-day operations, the steady state provision of care through EMS, fire and rescue, as well as ongoing efforts with Caltrans so that should it rain again, we're continuing to work with them to pre-position resources that are typically assigned to the Bay Bridge to move some of those to the Caldecott on those heavy precipitation days when we see a significant increase in vehicle accidents coming in and out of the tunnel. And then lastly, it's with great pleasure that over the holiday period, we recognize two of our members through the annual Firefighter of the Year presentation, and then the Chiefs Award. Our Firefighter of the Year this year was Captain Jacob Barola, who I believe is still on the call for, well, I would say just about everything he's got his hands in. Jacob's been very busy in a number of projects, both representing his fellow members and taking on a leadership role throughout the district as he has for years, and continuing to be an excellent community resource and engagement, specifically through his role as a CERT instructor, where he's been instrumental in acting as the face of the fire department when working with these community volunteers who are seeking ways to become more prepared and to ensure that they have developed resiliency in their communities at the neighborhood level. In that role, he has been outstanding and continues to be, a frequently requested instructor due to the quality of the information and the manner in which he presents it. We also have Captain John Bensley, who was presented with the Chiefs Award, specifically in recognition of his ongoing role in running our rope rescue program and a new role he's taken on representing the district on the county CICCS committee, through which we increase the number of certs and quals that our members have that allow them to go out on incidents in a qualified position, which has been absolutely critical to our development of experience, our exposure to best practices and trends in the fire service, and real world on the fire line experience that our members are able to capture every year as they continue to go out. So take a moment to recognize the two of them for their good work. It was a great pleasure to recognize them, and they certainly have done quite a bit to deserve it.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to both of them. Just a great job, and the community thanks you, and I'm sure your families are proud of you. You're proud of yourself, and the board's very proud of you. And thank you very much for your dedication to the district. It's greatly appreciated.
I would echo all that, and thanks for being great team members, and great community representatives in addition to, all your other duties.
That concludes my report, directors.
Communications received. 12.4.
There were a number included with, as previously referenced, on items 8.5 and 8.6, as well as previous communications received with regard to item 10.8 with traffic comment. No other significant communications received, sir.
All right. Thank you. 12.5 of future agenda items.
It's directed to Danziger. I just had a question, Chief. A few months ago, I asked for some information on current CWS, and I know there had been some issues that we weren't getting it. Are we getting anything yet on signups and such that used to give us that information?
Yes, sir. I apologize. We have not received that report in a
Okay.
while, and
Okay.
I failed to get it. I'll be
That's
making a note now, and I'll run those down, sir.
Okay, no problem. That's it.
I will open up public comment for agenda items 12.1 through 12.5. Marcia, have we received anything?
We do not have any public comments.
All right, I will close public comment on items 12.1 through 12.5. And before we close out the meeting, two things. I would like to have a moment of just thoughts and prayers for 3 Oakland firefighters that got hurt yesterday at a high-rise fire. And then I would also like to close our meeting in remembrance of Captain Vidal Max Fortuna of the Stockton Fire Department, who was senselessly shot and killed at an incident. So our thoughts and prayers go out to his Stockton Fire Department family, his family, and our thoughts are with him. Thank you. I think that concludes our meeting for tonight.
We adjourn the meeting.
So we need motion,
I move we adjourn the meeting.
and I'll second.
Marcia, can I get a vote, please?
Director Bates,
Aye.
Director Danziger,
Aye.
Director Jex,
Aye.
Director Jorgens,
Aye.
President Donner.
Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Aye.